Emma Baker stared at her phone, her hands trembling as she typed the desperate message. James, I hate to ask again, but I need $40 for Lily's formula. I get paid Friday, I swear I'll pay you back. She hit send before she could change her mind, then slumped against her threadbare couch, exhaustion washing over her. The baby monitor crackled with the soft sounds of her 6-month-old daughter's breathing. Emma had exactly $2. 13 in her checking account, no formula, and had already watered down the last bottle more than she should have. The text was humiliating, but her pride meant nothing compared to her daughter's hunger. 3 miles away, in the penthouse office of Meridian Technologies, Alexander Reed's phone buzzed. The 42-year-old CEO glanced at the notification, expecting another update from his executive team about the pending merger. Instead, he found himself staring at a message clearly not meant for him. Alexander frowned, running a hand through his salt and pepper hair. He rarely used this personal number, a select few even had it. This was obviously a wrong number, yet something about the raw desperation in those few lines made him pause before dismissing it. Emma's phone pinged with a response that made her heart stop. I think you have the wrong number. I'm not James. Horror washed over her as she checked the number. She had mistyped the last digit of her brother's new phone number. I'm so sorry, she typed back quickly. Please ignore that. Wrong number. She tossed her phone aside, mortification burning through her exhaustion. Another failure in a long string of them. Alexander couldn't explain why he didn't simply acknowledge her apology and move on. Perhaps it was the mention of a baby, or maybe it was just the welcome distraction from the cutthroat negotiations that had consumed his life for months. Is your baby going to be okay? He typed, surprising himself. When Emma saw the response, she blinked in confusion. Why would a stranger care? Her first instinct was caution. She'd heard plenty of stories about predators online, but exhaustion and desperation weakened her usual defenses. We'll manage, she replied curtly. Sorry to bother you. I could help, came the immediate response. No strings attached. Emma snorted. In her experience, there were always strings. Thanks, but I don't take money from strangers, she wrote back. Smart policy, Alexander replied. He hesitated, then added, I'm Alex. Now I'm not a stranger. What formula does your baby need? Emma stared at the message, torn between suspicion and a flicker of hope. Why would you help someone you don't know? In his office, Alexander looked out over the city skyline. Why, indeed, his assistant would say he was procrastinating on reviewing the merger documents. His ex-wife would say he was having another impulsive moment. Both would be partially right. Let's just say I've been fortunate, and I remember when I wasn't, he replied. It wasn't the whole truth, but it wasn't a lie either. Emma's exhaustion clouded her judgment. She hadn't slept more than 3 consecutive hours in days. The formula was En Famille Gentlies. Lily had colic, and it was the only brand that didn't make her scream for hours. It was also the most expensive one on the shelf. I don't feel right about this, she typed. What's your Venmo? Alexander asked. Emma hesitated, then sent her username. What did she have to lose? She could always block this person if things got weird. Seconds later, her phone buzzed with a notification. Emma gasped. This Alex hadn't sent $40. He'd sent $400. This is too much, she typed frantically. I can't accept this. Consider it an advance for the next few months, Alexander replied. One less thing to worry about. Tears sprang to Emma's eyes, blurring her vision. She hadn't cried when she'd been laid off from the accounting firm 2 months ago. She hadn't cried when James, her only remaining family, had moved across the country for work, leaving her without her safety net. She hadn't even cried when her landlord had slipped the late notice under her door yesterday, but this unexpected kindness from a complete stranger broke something loose inside her. Thank you, she typed simply, unable to find words adequate for her gratitude. You're welcome, Emma, Alexander replied. Take care of Lily. It wasn't until hours later, as Emma returned from the store with formula and groceries, that she realized something that made her blood run cold. She had never mentioned her daughter's name to this stranger. The next morning, Emma woke to another message from the mysterious Alex. Hope you and Lily had a better night. I have a proposition for you. Emma's guard immediately went up. Here it comes, she thought bitterly, the strings. What kind of proposition? She asked warily. Professional, not personal, came the swift reply. I run a company called Meridian Technologies. We need someone with accounting skills for a short-term project. Your brother James mentioned you were looking for work. Emma nearly dropped her phone. How do you know my brother? How do you know I'm an accountant? Her heart raced as she checked her social media profiles, all set to private. Who was this person? I apologize for the intrusion, Alexander wrote. After our conversation, I was curious. Your number is very similar to James Connors, who works in my HR department. When I mentioned the wrong number text to him this morning, he realized who you must be. He speaks very highly of your accounting skills. Emma sank onto her couch, relief and wariness battling for dominance. It was a reasonable explanation, but still unsettling. So this was all just a coincidence? Completely, Alexander confirmed, but perhaps a fortunate one for both of us. We genuinely need help with a project reconciling some accounts before a merger. It's a 3-month contract with the possibility of permanent placement. Would you be interested in interviewing? Emma's mind raced. It seemed too perfect, too convenient. Yet her brother did indeed work in HR at some tech company. She'd never paid much attention to the details. She'd been sending out resumes for weeks with no response. Could she really afford to turn down this opportunity out of suspicion? I'd be interested in hearing more, she finally replied cautiously, but I'd need flexibility. I have Lily, and childcare is... We offer on-site childcare for employees, Alexander wrote back immediately. And flexible working hours. Come in tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'll tell reception to expect you. As Emma prepared Lily's morning bottle, she couldn't shake the feeling that something about this situation wasn't adding up. The coincidence seemed too perfect, the timing too convenient. But with her savings depleted and rent due, did she really have the luxury of looking this gift horse in the mouth? What she didn't know was that across town, Alexander Reed was having second thoughts about his impulsive decision, wondering if he'd overstepped boundaries in a way that would come back to haunt them both. The Meridian Technologies headquarters loomed above Emma like a gleaming monolith of glass and steel. She adjusted Lily's carrier on her arm, straightened her only professional blazer, thrifted but still presentable, and pushed through the revolving doors. The security guard at the front desk smiled as she approached. Emma Baker, he asked before she could speak. At her surprised nod, he continued, Mr. Reed's office is on the top floor. Martha will meet you at the elevator. The smooth efficiency with which she was escorted through the building only heightened Emma's sense of unreality. This wasn't how job interviews usually went, especially not for temporary accounting positions. An elegant woman in her 50s met her as promised and led her not to a conference room or HR office, but directly to a corner suite with views that made Emma momentarily forget her anxiety. He'll be with you shortly, Martha said, gesturing to a sitting area. Can I get you anything? Coffee, water? Water would be nice, thank you, Emma replied, settling Lily's carrier on the soft leather couch beside her. The baby was mercifully asleep, exhausted from the morning's preparations. Emma used the moment alone to take in her surroundings. The office was surprisingly warm for a CEO's lair. Bookshelves lined one wall and family photos dotted the desk. A guitar stood in one corner, incongruous against the backdrop of corporate success. She looks peaceful, came a deep voice from the doorway. Emma turned to find a tall man watching her with keen interest. His expensive suit couldn't hide the athletic build beneath, and laugh lines around his eyes softened what might otherwise have been an intimidating presence. This, she realized with a jolt, was Alexander Reed, the stranger who had sent her $400 for baby formula. Mr. Reed, she said, standing quickly. Thank you for seeing me. Alex, please, he corrected, moving forward to shake her hand. His grip was firm but brief. And thank you for coming in on such short notice. There was an awkward pause as they both seemed to acknowledge the strange circumstances that had brought them together. I should explain yesterday's texts, he said finally, taking a seat across from her. I don't make a habit of sending money to wrong numbers, and I don't make a habit of accepting it, Emma countered, finding her voice. I'm still not entirely comfortable with how this all happened, Alex nodded, respecting her directness. Fair enough. The truth is, your message came at a particular moment. Yesterday was the anniversary of my daughter's death. Emma's breath caught. I'm so sorry. Charlotte would have been 8, he continued, his eyes drifting to Lily. Leukemia. She fought for 3 years. Emma instinctively reached for Lily's carrier, a protective gesture that didn't go unnoticed. When I got your text about needing formula, Alex said, it felt like, I don't know, a chance to help someone the way I couldn't help her. The explanation disarmed Emma. The suspicion she'd been nursing, that this was some elaborate setup, or worse, that he expected something inappropriate in return for his help, began to dissolve. "And the job?" she asked cautiously. "Completely legitimate," he assured her. "The connection with your brother was coincidental, but when I mentioned the wrong number story to the HR team this morning, James recognized the situation immediately. He's been worried about you." Emma felt a flush of embarrassment. "James doesn't know how bad things got. I didn't want him to worry when he's just getting established himself. Family pride," Alex noted with understanding. "I know something about that too." He handed her a folder. "These are the details of the position. 3 months, full benefits, competitive salary. We're preparing for a merger and need someone to reconcile some discrepancies in our financial records." Emma scanned the documents, her accounting background immediately spotting the considerable salary, more than she'd made at her previous job. "This is very generous for a temporary position." "We pay for quality," Alex replied simply. "James showed me your resume. 2 years at Deloitte, top of your class at Georgetown. You're overqualified, if anything." Martha returned with water and coffee, providing Emma a moment to collect her thoughts. The job was real. The salary would solve her immediate financial crisis, but something still nagged at her. "Why didn't you just tell me who you were from the beginning?" she asked after Martha left. "In the texts." Alex sipped his coffee, considering. "Would you have believed me?" "Hi, I'm a CEO. Let me help you?" "Probably not," Emma admitted. "And then there's the fact that this is rather unorthodox," he added. "The board would have questions about me personally reaching out to a candidate." Lily stirred in her carrier, making small noises that Emma recognized as the prelude to a full-blown hunger cry. With practiced movements, she lifted the baby and reached for the diaper bag. "May I?" Alex asked, gesturing to the door near his desk. "There's a small kitchenette through there, more private." Emma nodded gratefully and slipped into what turned out to be a well-appointed private break room. As she prepared Lily's bottle, her mind raced through her options. The job seemed legitimate. The company was reputable. She'd looked it up on her phone during the subway ride. And yet the circumstances remained strange enough to give her pause. When she returned, Alex was on the phone, his voice low and tense. "I don't care what Patterson thinks. We're not selling that division. Because I gave my word to those employees, that's why." He caught sight of Emma and quickly ended the call. "Sorry about that. Merger negotiations are always tense." Emma settled back on the couch with Lily in her arms. "It sounds complicated. Business usually is," he replied, watching as she fed the baby. "You're good with her." "I had to be," Emma said softly. "Her father left when he found out I was pregnant. It's just been us." Alex's expression darkened momentarily. "His loss," he said simply. The conversation shifted to the specifics of the job, hours, responsibilities, the project timeline. Emma found herself relaxing as they discussed familiar accounting territory. This, at least, made sense to her. "One last thing," Alex said as their meeting drew to a close. "The on-site daycare is excellent, but it currently has a waiting list. Until a spot opens for Lily, would you be comfortable working from my private office suite? There's a small conference room you could use, and Lily would be welcome." The offer took Emma by surprise. "That's unusually accommodating." "I told you we need your skills," Alex replied, though something in his expression suggested there was more to it. "And the work needs to be kept confidential given the sensitive nature of the merger." As if on cue, Martha appeared at the door. "Mr. Reed, your 10:30 is waiting." Alex stood, extending his hand again. "So, Emma Baker, do we have a deal?" Emma hesitated only briefly before taking his hand. "Yes, thank you for the opportunity." "Perfect. Martha will help you with the paperwork. You can start Monday." He paused at the door. "And Emma, the $400 was a gift, not an advance. No need to pay it back." Before she could protest, he was gone, leaving Emma with the distinct impression that her life had just changed course in ways she couldn't yet imagine. What she didn't see was Alex stopping in the hallway, removing a photo from his wallet, a woman holding a baby girl, and staring at it with a complex mixture of emotions before tucking it away and straightening his shoulders to meet his next appointment. 3 weeks into her contract at Meridian Technologies, Emma had settled into a routine that still felt surreal. Each morning, she and Lily would take the elevator to the top floor, where Martha would greet them with a warm smile and often a cup of coffee for Emma. The small conference room adjacent to Alex's office had been transformed into a functional workspace, complete with a portable crib for Lily's naps. The financial reconciliation project was challenging, but engaging. Exactly the kind of work Emma had excelled at before Lily's birth had derailed her career plans. The discrepancies she'd been hired to investigate were subtle but significant, consistent patterns of small financial aberrations that individually meant little but collectively suggested something more troubling. "These numbers don't add up," Emma murmured to herself, comparing spreadsheets on her dual monitors. Lily babbled happily from her playmat on the floor, entertained by the colorful toys Martha had mysteriously produced on Emma's second day. A soft knock interrupted her concentration. Alex stood at the door, his tie loosened, looking more tired than she'd seen him before. "Making progress?" he asked, entering and immediately crouching down to greet Lily, who squealed in delight at the attention. The baby had grown inexplicably attached to Alex, reaching for him whenever he appeared. "Some," Emma replied, watching their interaction with a mixture of warmth and caution, "but I've found something concerning in the Thompson acquisition accounts." Alex's focus shifted immediately. "Show me." Emma pulled up the relevant files, explaining the pattern she'd discovered. "These variances are too consistent to be accidental. Someone's been systematically siphoning small amounts from multiple accounts, then covering their tracks with adjusted entries." Alex's expression darkened as he studied the screen. "How much are we talking about?" "About 3 million over the past 18 months, Emma said quietly. "You're sure?" "It's why you hired me, isn't it?" she countered. "To find exactly this kind of thing?" A flicker of something, guilt, concern, crossed Alex's face. "Yes, of course." He straightened, running a hand through his hair. "I need you to prepare a complete report. Don't share this with anyone else yet, not even James." "Not even your CFO?" Emma asked, surprised. Alex's jaw tightened. "Especially not Vince, not until we know more." After he left, Emma sat back, troubled by the exchange. Why would the CEO want to keep potential embezzlement from his chief financial officer? Unless... "No," she muttered to herself. "Don't go creating conspiracies." But the seed of doubt had been planted. That evening, after putting Lily to bed in their now considerably more comfortable apartment, thanks to her Meridian salary, Emma began her own investigation. By midnight, she had compiled a disturbing timeline. The financial discrepancies had begun shortly after Vincent Harmon had been appointed CFO, following the unexpected resignation of his predecessor. The next morning, Emma arrived earlier than usual, determined to speak with Alex before the day's meetings began. She found his office dark, which was unusual. He typically arrived before everyone else. A text notification lit up her phone. "Emergency board meeting. Use the time to finish your report. We'll talk later, eh?" The vague message did nothing to ease Emma's growing unease. She settled Lily in her play area and dove back into the financial records, expanding her search parameters. By lunchtime, her suspicions had solidified into certainty. Someone high up in Meridian was systematically embezzling funds, and the pattern suggested intimate knowledge of the company's financial oversight systems. Emma was so engrossed in her work that she didn't notice Vincent Harmon until he was standing in her doorway, his imposing figure blocking the light. "Ms. Baker," he said smoothly. "Hard at work, I see." Emma instinctively minimized her screen. "Mr. Harmon, can I help you?" The CFO's smile didn't reach his eyes. "I understand you've been working on some special project for Alex. Curious that he didn't involve the finance department." "Just some reconciliation for the merger," Emma replied vaguely, her heart racing. "Nothing exciting." Vincent stepped further into the room, glancing at Lily, who watched him with solemn eyes. "Convenient arrangement you have here. Private office, bringing your child to work. Alex must think very highly of your skills." The insinuation was clear and made Emma's cheeks burn with indignation. "Mr. Reed values efficiency," she said stiffly, "and I found several issues that needed addressing." "I'm sure you have," Vincent replied, his tone making it clear he believed something entirely different was going on. "Just remember, Ms. Baker, Meridian was doing fine before you arrived, and it will continue long after your temporary position ends." After he left, Emma sat shaking, both angry and frightened. The confrontation confirmed her suspicions that Vincent saw her as a threat, but it also suggested something worse, that others in the company might perceive her special arrangement with Alex as something inappropriate. She was still processing the encounter when her phone rang with an unfamiliar number. "Emma Baker speaking," she answered professionally. "Ms. Baker, this is Detective Russo with the Financial Crimes Division." The woman's voice was brisk and official. "I understand you're currently employed at Meridian Technologies." Emma's blood ran cold. "Yes, that's correct. We're investigating some irregularities in Meridian's accounts. I'd like to ask you a few questions." I'm not sure what I can tell you," Emma stammered, looking anxiously toward Lily. "Perhaps we should continue this conversation at our office," the detective suggested. "This afternoon, if possible." By the time Alex finally returned from his meeting at 3 o'clock, Emma was nearly frantic. She immediately pulled him into his office, closing the door. "The police called me," she blurted out. "Financial Crimes Division. They want me to come in for questioning. And Vincent Harmon was here acting suspicious about what I'm working on." Alex's face paled. "Damn it," he muttered. "This is happening faster than I expected." He paced the length of his office, then turned to her with unexpected intensity. "Emma, I need to tell you something, and I need you to trust me." "Trust you?" she echoed incredulously. "Alex, what's going on? Am I being set up for something?" "No," he said firmly. "The opposite. I need to show you something." He unlocked a drawer in his desk and pulled out a thick file. "I haven't been entirely honest with you about why I hired you." Emma felt the floor shift beneath her. "What do you mean?" "You weren't randomly assigned to me through a wrong number," Alex said, his voice low and urgent. "I've been investigating internal theft at Meridian for months. We needed someone from outside the company, someone with no connections to the executive team." "So you, targeted me?" Emma felt sick. "Your brother mentioned you months ago, your skills, your situation. When we needed someone trustworthy, I remembered." Alex looked genuinely regretful. The wrong number text was genuine. That part was coincidence. But once I realized who you were, I saw an opportunity. "You manipulated me," Emma whispered, thinking of Lily, of how vulnerable they had been. "You used my financial situation, my desperation, to give you a legitimate job that you're excellent at," Alex countered. "Yes, I had ulterior motives for hiring you, but not the kind you're thinking. I'm working with the FBI on this, Emma. Vincent Harmon isn't just embezzling. He's laundering money through our international divisions." Emma sank into a chair, her mind racing. "The detective who called is legitimate," Alex confirmed. "But you need to be careful what you tell her. We don't know who else might be involved." Before Emma could respond, Martha burst into the office without knocking, something she'd never done before. "Alex," she said, her usual composure shattered. "They're here, board security and the police. They're saying—" She faltered, looking at Emma with confusion. "Saying what, Martha?" Alex prompted, already moving toward Emma and Lily. "They're saying you've been embezzling funds. They have a warrant for your arrest and they specifically mentioned Ms. Baker as an accomplice." Emma clutched Lily to her chest, a cold wave of terror washing over her. This can't be happening. Alex's face hardened as he made a swift decision. "Martha, use the private elevator. Get Emma and Lily out of the building now. Take them to the safe house." "The safe house?" Emma repeated, feeling as though she'd stumbled into some bizarre thriller movie. "Alex, I can't just—" "Emma," he interrupted, gripping her shoulders and looking directly into her eyes. "Listen to me carefully. Vincent knows you found evidence against him. He's trying to frame us both. If you stay here, they'll separate you from Lily while you're being questioned." The thought of being separated from her daughter was enough to galvanize Emma into action. She quickly gathered Lily's things while Martha collected the files from Emma's desk. "What about you?" Emma asked Alex as they moved toward a hidden door behind his bookcase. "I'll handle this," he said grimly. "I have allies on the board. Just stay safe until I contact you." He hesitated, then added more softly, "I'm sorry for not being completely honest. But I swear everything else, the way I feel about you and Lily, that's been real." Before Emma could process his words, Martha was guiding her through the hidden passage to a private elevator, leaving Alex to face the approaching storm alone. The safe house turned out to be a modest but comfortable apartment in a secure building across town. Emma paced the living room, Lily finally asleep in the portable crib Martha had somehow procured along with diapers, formula, and other essentials. "You seem very prepared for this," Emma observed, watching the older woman efficiently arrange supplies in the kitchen. Martha's normally pleasant expression was serious. Alex has always been careful. When the discrepancies first appeared 6 months ago, he knew something was wrong. "So all of this was planned?" Emma asked, struggling to reconcile her feelings of betrayal with the evidence that Alex had been working to expose corruption, not perpetrate it. "Not all of it," Martha replied, her expression softening. "Finding you was genuine coincidence, but Alex recognized an opportunity when he saw it, someone with the skills we needed, with no connections to Vincent's network." "But why not just go to the authorities from the beginning?" "He did," Martha said, "but Vincent has powerful friends. The first investigation was quietly closed due to lack of evidence." She handed Emma a cup of tea. Alex needed irrefutable proof before moving forward again. "Which I found," Emma realized. "Which you found," Martha confirmed. Emma sank onto the couch, overwhelmed. "And now, I'm hiding in a safe house like some character in a thriller, while Alex is possibly being arrested for crimes he didn't commit." "Alex can take care of himself," Martha assured her, though worry lines creased her forehead. "He's been preparing for this confrontation for months." Hours passed with no word. Emma tried to distract herself by reviewing the files Martha had saved, looking for anything that might help Alex's case. Around midnight, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Are you safe?" "Yes," she typed back cautiously. "Is this a—" "It's me," came the reply. "Had to ditch my regular phone. Police took my devices but released me for now. Vincent's playing this carefully, making it look like he's the one who discovered the embezzlement." "What happens now?" Emma asked. "Now we use what you found. My contact at the FBI is meeting us tomorrow, 10 a.m. Emma stared at the message. "Us?" "If you're willing. You found the evidence. You can explain it better than anyone." Emma glanced at Lily, sleeping peacefully, unaware of the chaos surrounding them. By agreeing to meet with the FBI, she'd be stepping directly into a dangerous situation, potentially making herself a target. The sensible thing would be to take Lily and disappear. She had enough money saved now to start fresh somewhere, but running would mean Vincent Harmon and his accomplices might escape justice. It would mean abandoning Alex after he'd put himself at risk trying to do the right thing. Despite his deception about how they met, everything else, the job, the accommodations for Lily, the respect for her work, had been genuine. "I'll be there," she replied. The next morning, after Martha arrived to watch Lily, Emma met Alex at a nondescript office building downtown. He looked exhausted, but managed a relieved smile when he saw her. "You came," he said simply. "I almost didn't," Emma admitted. "Part of me still thinks this is crazy." "It is crazy," Alex agreed, guiding her inside with a gentle hand at her back. "But it's also necessary." The FBI agent, a sharp-eyed woman named Keller, listened intently as Emma walked through her findings, explaining in detail how the embezzlement scheme worked and how it had been disguised. "This is exactly what we needed," Agent Keller said when Emma finished. "Clear evidence of both embezzlement and money laundering." She turned to Alex. "The board meeting scheduled for this afternoon. Vincent will be there?" Alex nodded. "Along with the board members who've been protecting him." "They're planning to formally accuse me and vote me out." "Perfect," Keller smiled thinly. "We'll be ready." The plan was straightforward but risky. Alex would attend the board meeting as expected. Emma would wait with the FBI team in an adjacent room, ready to present her evidence once Vincent made his accusations. The timing would be crucial. They needed Vincent to explicitly lie to the board with federal agents present. As they prepared to leave for Meridian Technologies, Alex pulled Emma aside. "If this goes wrong," he said quietly, "Martha has instructions to get you and Lily out of the country. There's an account set up in your name with enough to start over." Emma stared at him, stunned by the extent of his contingency planning. "It won't come to that," she said, with more confidence than she felt. "Just in case," Alex insisted, pressing a small envelope into her hand. "And Emma, thank you for trusting me even after everything." The board meeting began precisely at 3 o'clock. Emma watched through a monitor in the next room as Vincent Harmon stood to address the gathered executives, his face a mask of regretful duty. "It pains me to present these findings," he began, distributing folders to each board member. "But the evidence is clear." Alexander Reed, with the assistance of an outside accomplice named Emma Baker, has been systematically diverting company funds to offshore accounts. Emma felt sick hearing her name spoken with such calculated malice. On screen, Alex remained impressively calm. "That's a serious accusation, Vince," he said evenly. "I assume you have proof." "The proof is in front of you," Vincent replied smoothly. "Financial records don't lie." "No, they don't," Alex agreed, "which is why I'd like to introduce some additional evidence." He nodded toward the door, the signal they'd arranged. Agent Keller opened the door, and Emma entered the boardroom with 2 FBI agents flanking her. The shock on Vincent's face was momentarily satisfying before it transformed into calculated composure. "Ms. Baker," he said coldly, "how convenient." "Here to defend your benefactor." "Actually," Emma replied, "I'm here to explain how you've been stealing from Meridian for the past 18 months. For the next 30 minutes, Emma walked the board through her findings, methodically dismantling Vincent's false narrative while the FBI agents distributed her report. She explained how Vincent had created a sophisticated system of small diversions, hidden accounting adjustments, and falsified reconciliations to mask the theft of millions. "The pattern begins precisely 3 weeks after Mr. Harmon became CFO," Emma concluded, "and the money trail leads directly to shell companies where he's the beneficial owner." Vincent's face had grown increasingly pale as she spoke. When she finished, he glanced toward the door, clearly calculating his chances of escape. "Don't," Agent Keller warned, noting his gaze. "The building is secured." What happened next occurred so quickly that Emma would later struggle to recall the sequence. Vincent lunged across the table toward her, something metallic flashing in his hand. Alex moved without hesitation, placing himself between them. There was a moment of chaotic struggle, shouts from the agents, and then Vincent was on the floor, restrained. "Alex!" Emma cried, seeing blood spreading across his shirt. "It's just a scratch," he assured her, though his grimace belied his words. "Though I might need a new shirt for the rest of this meeting." 3 hours later, after Vincent and 2 board members had been taken into custody, after statements had been given and wounds treated, Emma sat with Alex in his office. Martha had brought Lily, who was contentedly exploring a new stuffed elephant while the adults processed the day's events. "So what happens now?" Emma asked, watching Alex gingerly adjust the bandage on his arm. "Professionally, damage control. The company will survive this, though the merger might be delayed." He hesitated. "Personally, that depends on you." "On me?" Alex met her gaze directly. "Your contract has 2 months left, but I'd like to offer you a permanent position. Head of Internal Audit, reporting directly to the board for independence." Emma blinked in surprise. "That's a significant promotion." "You've more than earned it," Alex said sincerely. "You saw what experienced executives missed or chose to ignore. Meridian needs someone with your integrity." Emma looked at Lily, now falling asleep, clutching her elephant. "And the accommodations for Lily?" "A spot has officially opened in the company daycare," Alex replied with a small smile. "Though she's welcome in my office any time." He paused, choosing his next words carefully. "Emma, I know how this started wasn't ideal. I manipulated circumstances to get you here, and I'm sorry for that. But everything since, getting to know you, watching you with Lily, seeing your brilliance in action, that's been the most real thing in my life since I lost Charlotte." Emma felt a flutter in her chest that had nothing to do with the day's adrenaline. "I need time to think," she said honestly. "This has been a lot." "Of course," Alex agreed immediately. "Take all the time you need." 6 months later, Meridian Technologies held its annual holiday party. Emma, now established in her role as head of internal audit, watched with pride as her team received recognition for implementing new financial safeguards. Lily, now walking unsteadily, toddled between Emma and Alex, who had long since moved beyond being just her boss. "Ready for the announcement?" Alex whispered, taking her hand. Emma nodded, feeling the weight of the engagement ring still new on her finger. They had taken things slowly, building trust deliberately after their unusual beginning. The board already knew about their relationship. Transparency had become Emma's watchword in both her professional and personal life. As Alex called for attention and shared their news with the gathered employees, Emma reflected on the text message that had started it all. A desperate plea sent to a wrong number that had somehow found exactly the right person. Though she still teased Alex about his knight in shining armor complex, she couldn't deny that sometimes The most unlikely beginnings led to the most perfect endings. Later that night, as she tucked Lily into bed in their new home, the three of them together at last, Emma whispered a truth that still amazed her. Sometimes the mistakes we think will break us are actually pointing us toward where we're meant to be.